I sincerely think that Minecraft is one of the best games of all time and has one of the best communities of all time. I mean, like, what other game has such a variety? One game and you have people that play 1.8 version, that play the newer versions, and each version has its own sub community. There's the building community, redstone, right? Commands, mods, and then there's PvP. And when it comes to PvP, there's 1.8, 1.9 plus, and then there's like soup PvP, crystal PvP, mace PvP, and now there's even a tier list. I mean, which other community is that dedicated? I don't know any other community like that, quite honestly. And there's even an ice boat racing community. Like, it just can't get better than this. But then why am I telling people, you know what, man, maybe you should stop playing Minecraft? Maybe it's too much. And the answer is actually quite simple. And a lot of you might just click off and say, like, oh, you're a party pooper, you're a bum. Who cares? But before you do, I would just like to say, like, could you hear me out first? Hear me out, alright? So the reason why I'm saying, like, quit Minecraft, quit playing video games, is because, you know what? Video games are actually horrible for you. Most video games suck. They make you a complete bum, unemployed, and they just give you horrible habits. And you might be looking at me like, what is this? He's LARPing. What is he talking about? He's saying all of this, but he's recording this. Obviously, where does this footage come from, right? I'm recording this live in Minecraft, but you just said you can't play Minecraft. It's for bums. You're gonna, you know. All right, here's the difference. When I say I play maybe an hour a month, just like occasionally, it's actually an hour a month. You know, if I say I'm only gonna play an hour a week, it's actually an hour a week. When you say you're gonna play an hour a week, it's actually 2 hours a day, because you have no self control, because you have no discipline, because your entire life right now is based on video games, and that's the issue. And if it's not, you can click off. If you have great self control, your life is going amazing, you can click off this video. But if you are like me, from the past, and you're like, your life is not the greatest, maybe you don't really have anything in your life going outside of Minecraft, maybe you should stay and hear me out. So this entire thing started around, let me think, 3 years ago, about more than 3 years now. And it all started, let me actually show you how much I've played just on PvP Legacy alone. Alright? You can already see I have a rank. I even bought a fucking rank. And on PvP Legacy alone, I've spent, see, you can see I'm legit, 5 years ago, bro. I'm not a LARPer. Alright? I've been in this community for so long. And I've played a total of 11 days and 22 hours. This is more than, let me think. It's more than 200, almost like 300 hours of on one server where the only thing you can do is do PvP matches, not the other PvP server, just on PvP Legacy alone. That being said, PvP Legacy was kind of one of the only popular servers back in my day. The tier list wasn't as big. We didn't have a bunch of the servers we do now. And the servers we do have, there were not a lot of people playing because the tier list wasn't as popular back then. All right. But regardless, just to show you my credential, right? My credibility. And so what prompted me to stop? Well, I didn't want to stop at first, but what really ended it for me was one day I came back from school, right? And during that period of time, for some reason, all my friends like playing ping pong, and I suck at sports. I was never an athletic kid. I was quite the opposite. All right, so I couldn't even catch a ball. For the life of me, I could not get. You would see like a morbidly obese, like paraplegic, disabled kid. He would probably have been more athletic than me. I hate Mace PvP. I can't play this. It's the new generation, bro. I can't. Let's play some. Is there Crystal? Why is there only Mace? Mace sucks. What was I saying? They were playing ping pong, and man, bot lobbies, man. Basically, they were playing ping pong. All right, and I went back home, so there's like no friends. I was by myself, and it was horrible. But at least I had Minecraft, so I hopped on. I was playing probably like Crystal on PvP Legacy, and I was playing, and it was like, it's all the same. You're just the same fights. It's meaningless. And at a certain point, I got really bored, so I started reading a webcomic instead. That comic was called Lookism, and it's like a fighting manga, comic, webtoon, whatever. And then one of the characters, the martial art he did was judo, and I was like, shit, that actually looks very cool. And then I got a spark in my head. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this. If every you might be like, oh my god, what a cornball, for saying this, but it's true that like you look at, let's say, like all the anime, they're heroes, right? How come they can always go through all this training and then like go from nothing? A lot of times they start as bums, right? They go from nothing to like a great hero. And I'm like, well, I'm a human, and technically, I know they're fictional, but technically they're human too. What's stopping me from being one of the greats, right? What's stopping me? We are genetically almost exactly the same, the only difference being our mentality. And so from that, I was really inspired, and I thought judo was really cool. And so like, I love fighting, right? I love fighting, I love crystalling, I love, everything to do with fighting in video games. And so I'm like, why not do this in real life instead and actually be like a cool ass motherfucker, right? And so the problem at that time, the problem, you see, mentality at the time was still very much to the likes of, and I remember like the day, only people who experience this will really understand what it was like to wake up at like 12. Alright? First thing you do is open the computer and play Minecraft PvP. Alright? And you would play like it's the weekend, and you would play like 5-6 hours a day uninterrupted. And I remember thinking this exact thought to myself. What's the point of life? How do we know anything is worth anything at all? And if we don't know, and like that theory that, oh, actually we live in like the Matrix. Well, if that's the case, then so what? If we're all gonna die anyways, what's the difference between living a virtual life and living a physical life? Because if it doesn't matter, who cares? Right? The virtual world is just as real as any other world, right? And so I wanted to be one of the best Minecraft PvPers. That was my goal around at the time, which sounds a bit silly now. But just to show how deep I was into it, and it was all really escapism. I wasn't like obese, but I was pretty fat, and I was extremely unathletic. My life wasn't looking the brightest. I didn't have anything extraordinary going on either. And so that was my mindset. And going back to that day, everything changed. For some reason, I decided, you know what, I want to actually fight in real life and pick it up in real life. And that's where everything changed. Eventually, through that, I started working out. I discovered self-improvement, David Goggins, like a bunch of different things that made me improve myself. And fast forward 3 years to the present. You want to know who I am now? I went from nothing, just the average person. Alright, only thing they had for themselves going was, oh my god, my ping is dog shit. Only thing they had going for themselves was like being above average at video games. And now I'm the vice president of my student union. I've done Model UN, one at Princeton, Cornell, as well as Harvard Mun China. I'm the assistant secretary general of Harvard Mun Canada. As well, I've been a coach, a teacher, and as well as now actually what I was actually pursuing, judo and wrestling. I've competed at provincials. I've gotten maybe not the best results, but I can do many pull-ups now, many push-ups, and I'm so much better than where I started off as. And you know what? I'm really glad. I'm really happy. I can do like 10 pull-ups, 30 push-ups, and I can do and I think I'm a decent fighter. I've been doing jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo. I've won at Ontario Open. I've won at provincials. I've won at a bunch of different, but not provincials for judo, but wrestling. And I'm still pursuing it every day. I'm still grinding it. And I also started like a social media channel and all of that, which that on Instagram has gotten like racked in actually many millions of views overall. And it's just like success after success. And where does all this success come from? Well, it comes from when I started actually living. There's a good quote with Marcus Aurelius. I think that's like about every man has two lives. The first life is the one they're born with, and the second one is when they actually start living. Why am I'm too rusty at this game, man. One more round? Are you kidding me? And so that's the thing. Minecraft itself, it's an amazing game, and sometimes I still find myself on it time to time, but there was a period where I did not even log on for like almost an entire year because you have to log in. And that's not to flex or anything, right? It's just that sometimes it's time to put the journey to an end. And I think that most of you who are watching this, probably are gonna disagree, or it's like, oh, it's fine, it's not that deep, it's fine to be average, you don't have to be great, you don't have to, and just look at what you're sounding like. You're sounding like someone with no purpose, no ambition. Is this really who you want to be? If I told you you could have everything you've wanted in the physical world right now, if you just gave up your addictions, would you do it? If there was a 100% guarantee, well, guess what? There is a 100% guarantee. So, honestly, I think for a lot of, especially if you're too much on the tier list, if you're too much of a sweat, it's like, what are you doing with your life? Please, get off the game. Get a life.